cut. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Professor Tsunekawa, who is going to give a different perspective on these issues, partly reflecting on the paper, but also partly on this question of Paris, Busan and beyond, Japan and the aid effectiveness agenda, which I think is a sort of title, but we're very pleased to invite you to offer a few words from your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, and I'm very pleased to be here at the ODI, one of the most prestigious think tank on development in the world. I thank organizers to invite me here this afternoon. There was some misunderstanding about the role today, my role. I thought my role is to comment on this report, but I found out arriving at here that I'm one of the three main speakers. but this report is so interesting. If you allow me, I would like to start talking about this report and then go into my own views. Okay, I used to work as vice president of JICA, in charge of JICA Research Institute, but I left JICA last March, 3 months ago, to accept office as vice president of a national graduate school named GRIPS, National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies. So today I speak as a university professor and a mere citizen of Japan. My view in any way does not represent the official stance of JICA or Foreign Ministry. Okay, reading this ODA report on Japan's ODA, I found that it is short, 24 pages, but very comprehensive, covering broad aspects of Japan's ODA. So I recommend you to read this report carefully. But I just see some discrepancies between the main text, the first 2/3 of the text, and the last part, the value added of Japanese ODA. So I will talk about this impression of mine. Because in the main text, the authors seem quite critical of the Japanese approach to ODA. I read in the text the same criticisms raised frequently by other Western authors. And this report relies on many, the previous works done by Western authors. For example, the quality of Japanese ODA is poor compared with that of other donors. Of course, this is not what the authors of this report say, but they cite, this comment of other writers. Why they believe that Japanese ODA is poor. First, it is excessively focused on infrastructure and production, making little of poverty reduction. So the Japanese model is not applicable to poor regions like Africa. Second, Japan's aid is excessively commercialized and lacks international altruism. Third, Japan is less willing than other donors to meet the development community's ODA norms and agenda, like Paris principles. Fourth, Japan's ODA is more project-oriented, in that sense narrower, tied, and or inclined to loans rather than grants. Fifth, Japanese ODA's emphasis on the request-based principle is opaque, reactive, and ineffective in countries with weak governance. But this report admit that Japan has made many efforts to overcome these alleged weaknesses in recent years. But the result is rather not yet satisfactory. I think that's the message of this report. But reading the last part of the report about the value added of Japanese ODA, I have a feeling that there is some contradiction there, the first half and the second half. because they list many value-added elements of Japanese ODA, and one of them is Japan has persistently focused on the hardware aspect of development, such as infrastructure and agriculture, production. In retrospect, it can be regarded as a unique Japanese contribution. Second, Japan helps highlight that there is no single right way to approach development. Japan offers a wider set of options to the developing countries. It is well positioned to serve as a bridge between the traditional DAC donors and non-Western donors such as China, which are, of course, outside of DAC. Third, Japan's commercialized approach may be appropriate when we go beyond aid, or try to bridge aid with development. So, reading this report, the weaknesses of Japan's ODA pointed out in the first half of the report are praised, in a sense, as strength in the last part. So what should Japan do then? And here starts my opinion. Japan, as well as other traditional donors, faces serious fiscal difficulties, as you know. Japan is especially in a difficult situation due to many years of accumulated national debts. Now our debts are 200% of GDP every year. I'm sorry, of GDP, and the half of the budget every year depends on the debt. And Japan has to bear the huge fiscal burdens stemming from the damages of tsunami and nuclear power plant accidents in the coming years. So this means that Japan cannot afford to be a comprehensive ODA provider anytime soon. Japan will need to set priorities clearer and narrower than ever. In this respect, I believe that Japan should continue to focus on the modalities and activities it has pursued so far, which means the commercialized, project-oriented, tied approach, which have been criticized so much by Western countries. Why? Because it would be easier for Japanese government to obtain support from domestic stakeholders. However, the fiscal difficulties are not the sole reason why I believe that the Japanese approach to ODA is more appropriate today than ever. I will point out three things here. First, I want to remind you that MDGs are very important, but not our final goals. Methods to sustain and enhance, not just achieve, MDGs should be explored. The Paris Declaration on Aid Effectiveness has contributed greatly to the advancement of MDGs, no doubt. We need to strengthen our effort to achieve the goals by 2015. However, MDGs are just static targets. They are the basis on which ordinary people further develop their latent capability to enrich their lives, culturally, economically, and socially. In this sense, we need to explore how to sustain and enhance the MDGs. For this purpose, first we should take capacity development at the people's level more seriously, not at the Ministry of Finance level. Enhancement of school enrollment and the reduction of infant mortality are not sufficient by themselves. People need to be empowered, and their self-sustaining capacities should be strengthened in the process toward MDGs. So process itself is as important as goal achievement. Second, to look beyond aid and make MDGs and human security sustainable, we should consider mobilizing as much financial resources as possible. And these financial resources include traditional soft loans, emerging donors' money, as well as private investment to build infrastructure and productive capabilities. Expansion of private investment is crucial in making development efforts firm and persistent, as has been demonstrated by successful development cases in East Asia, including Japan itself. This process of mobilizing multiple financial resources should start in parallel with efforts to attain MDGs. Second, altruism and commercialism are not necessarily contradictory. We can and should make AIDS be a win-win game. Tied AIDS with strong component of public-private partnership have been criticized for not being optimal in terms of the benefits flowing into recipient countries. But if our purpose is to turn AIDS into sustained development, then we need to mobilize private resources, as I said before. Furthermore, to secure domestic support for ODA more broadly in Japan, tied AIDS with the participation of private experts, consultants, and companies are also desirable. This does not mean that every ODA in partnership with private businesses is good and should be promoted. No. Harmful conduct, such as land grabs, employment of native workers under inhuman conditions, and the destruction of natural environment should not be supported by ODA. However, if these undesirable conducts can be prevented, public and private partnership can benefit both donors and recipients. In this respect, I notice that in recent years, many African leaders are not necessarily seeking altruistic giving, but rather business chances, including their economy's participation in global value chains. For this purpose, the African governments want to increase infrastructure investment, and the African Development Bank plans to expand the lending for infrastructure building too. African leaders are also working to achieve economic transformation for sustained growth. And private enterprises, including foreign firms, will play a pivotal role in this endeavor of economic transformation. Therefore, emphasis on commercialism in ODA may help private players from the donor countries and stakeholders in the recipient countries share the benefits. This is not a zero-sum game, but an increasing sum game. Notwithstanding the importance of private funds, I want to quickly add that ODA official aid will continue to play a central role in reducing the downside risks, which could stem from recurring armed conflicts, natural disasters, and adverse effects of the climate change. Otherwise, these risks will easily reverse any achievements of MDGs and obstruct the effort for sustained growth. The third point I want to make is that the Paris Declaration approach to aid effectiveness is not necessarily based on firm evidences on the relationship between methods and results. It can sometimes even be counterproductive. I believe that aid effectiveness should be measured not by aid styles or methods, but by performance at the people's level. Unfortunately, aid styles such as harmonization and alignment have turned into goals themselves, although they are actually methods to realize the improvement of human security. One harmful effect of this turnaround is that harmonization came to be demanded even in the areas where no reasonable connection has been established between methods and results. One good example is the community-based school management in Niger. When JICA proposed the introduction of a secret ballot system to elect school management committee members among villagers, and also JICA proposed school action plans based solely on local resources, other donors did not believe the feasibility of such proposal. In practice, it turned out to be a great success, and the World Bank came ahead to finance the nationwide scaling up of the scheme, and it's going on right now. This innovation by JICA would never have been realized if harmonization, where is my next? If harmonization had been imposed from the beginning. Harmonization is not always good. It could kill innovation. We have to be careful. All these considerations lead me to the conclusion that nurturing the differences and distinctive strengths of different donors are as important for increasing aid effectiveness as alignment and harmonization. Diversities in ODA should be tolerated or even promoted, while premature standardization should be avoided in order to secure room for innovation. In order to empower people from above, not only from, to empower people from below, not always from above, and to make MDGs sustainable and enhancing. This being said, the Japanese approach focusing on project-based bottom-up capacity development and on public-private partnership faces a serious challenge. It is an old problem of the limitation in scale-up. Japan has seldom been successful in scaling up pilot projects. The project of school management committees in Niger I have just mentioned was scaled up thanks to World Bank money, not with Japanese financial resources. In recent years, JICA has been exploring a so-called program approach instead of project approach. But this program approach means, in JICA's context, an optimal combination of its three functions: technical cooperation, grant, and soft loan. Previously, these three functions were separated into three different institutions. Now JICA has all three since 3 years ago. But the results are still limited. Neither has there been much notable Japanese public-private partnership in Africa. Very little. So scaling up will be a major challenge for Japan's ODA. For that purpose, Japan should pursue cooperation and coordination with other public and private donors. Second, Japan should not forget that ODA's role continues to be crucial in coping with downside risks caused by recurring armed conflicts, natural disasters, and climate change. We need to help fill the capacity gap of the developing countries to strengthen their resilience against such risks. In conclusion, Japanese approach to ODA has been appropriate and should continue to be promoted in the future. But Japan also needs to make every effort to overcome the weaknesses of its own ODA.